You need to make sure you're spending time creating your own product so that you can have better control of your income. By having your own product, not only do you get to say what happens with it, how much it costs, but your audience also going to benefit greatly from it. And you're going to be that go-to person for all things related to that in the future. I actually remember reading a story about someone who lost the right to their name, like their actual name online and for themselves, because of how the contract had been laid out for ownership. So we really want to make sure that we have all of our stuff buttoned up so that we can protect ourselves, the things that are happening and saying to us online, but also protect our income. Oh, come do this photography session at my wedding. Like, I can't pay you, but you get really great experience, a nice portfolio piece, or things like that. I've heard these things throughout my whole career. You can't pay your bills making free content for brands. So unless there's some way for you to attach an income stream to it, you shouldn't even be touching it. And just because they say they don't have budget doesn't mean it's actually true. It just means that they don't want to pay you because they think that they can. So don't ever settle for that, and don't give away your content for free. If I wanted one stream of income, I would get a job, because if I'm just going to rely on one place to get all of my money, I'm going to just set myself up for failure, which is why I think it's so weird when YouTubers are like, oh, I just have AdSense and sponsorships. I'm like, those are like the worst ones to have. While the most popular ones, they're the worst ones. I'm your host, Desiree Martinez, and I'm going to be chatting with you solo today for today's episode. This is episode 30 of the Funded YouTuber podcast. I wanted to spend time recapping some vital do's and don'ts for you so you can maximize your earning potential as a YouTuber. In this episode, we're going to be sharing 10 common mistakes that YouTubers make, including how ignoring audience preferences can lead to missed monetization opportunities and what you can do to fix it. The importance of understanding contracts and paperwork to avoid long-term frustrations and loss. Why diversifying your income opportunities is crucial for your financial stability. And the critical role of paperwork and financial planning for growing your creator business. Thanks to all the amazing guests that we have learned from so far on the Funded YouTuber podcast, you're going to walk away with some actionable lessons to help you not only increase your income, but make you a better business owner. Let's dive in. The Funded YouTuber is brought to you by Gigastar. All right, so it's just you and me today, and I am really excited to go over these. I spent a lot of time reviewing old episodes, recapping stuff, a little bit of time in ChatGPT to put these together for you. Again, like the intro said, we've talked to so many incredible creators, and I feel like they've had so much actionable lessons, so many heartfelt stories, so many things that we can learn from. I figured, why not dedicate an episode to recapping what they have said, the lessons, like really strategically explained, and like some actionable things that you can do from all of this. So starting out the gate, it's going to be not making your own product. So many of our guests on this podcast have had some kind of product that they have made themselves, whether it's a course, a digital product, or a physical tangible item. This is going to be the best way for you to control your income, because you're not relying on any other source, whether it's affiliate marketing, whether it's AdSense, creator programs, and more. There's something about having your own product that gives you so much more control over how much you can make. Now, this does come in though with, you need to really know your audience and what it is that they want and need based on like what you already provide them. For example, when we talk with Ed Lawrence, he talks about how he only has one product now that he sells, and it's his one-on-one coaching consulting course, and it's how he makes the bulk of his money. We also talked to Jessica Stansberry, who has made a multi-six-figure business out of selling digital products very specifically on her YouTube channel. Another great person who has done this is Millie. And we also had Sarah Renee Clark, who is the inventor of the Color Cube. And it's just a great physical product that like her audience really strategically loves. It's almost like it's replaced the like coffee table book, and it's instead like this color cube with all these great cards signed with all these colors. All of them have developed products specifically that their audience loves, wants, and needs based on what they're struggling with or what problems they're having. You need to make sure you're spending time creating your own product so that you can have better control of your income. By having your own product, not only do you get to say what happens with it, how much it costs, but your audience also going to benefit greatly from it. And you're going to be that go-to person for all things related to that in the future. Next, we have not understanding our contracts and paper. Now, this concept really started hitting home when we were talking with Roberto Blake way back in like episode like 4 or 5. I shared this story about how he had his camera gear stolen at a conference. And because he had insurance on it, he was able to get it all back without any problems. Like they gave him the money and then he was able to buy the replacements. But we've had a lot of other people on the show that have talked about the necessity of contracts, including Justin Evans, because when you are doing your contracts and you don't fully understand like the terms that can lead to long-term financial losses, it can be really devastating. A lot of creators, again, forget that they're business owners when they're doing this. And part of being a business owner is you have to have some really specific I's dotted and T's crossed when it comes to your paperwork. That's why having a trusted lawyer or an accountant in place to review anything that comes across your inbox that you might be considering doing so you can really know what you're getting yourself into. I have heard countless horror stories about influencer companies that are trying to pay you 90, 120, 180 days out from when you've completed doing a project. I have heard contracts with people owning anything that you make. I actually remember reading a story about someone who lost the right to their name, like their actual name online and for themselves because of how the contract had been laid out for ownership. So we really want to make sure that we have all of our stuff buttoned up so that we can protect ourselves, the things that are happening and saying to us online, but also protect our income. I have talked to a lot of creators that have also like lost complete access to their YouTube channel because some person had hacked them through some weird back end way, and then they're like live streaming trash onto their site, and then they get shut down and demonetized, and it becomes this whole fight. And while most of them were able to get their channels back, it's still very devastating and shocking when you really think about that. So really understand how you can protect yourself financially through insurance, through accounting, through legal paperwork so that you can have all of your ducks in a row to make those best decisions. Now, one of the things that Michael Lee talked about with us is giving away content for free. Now, this is an interesting thing because a lot of people, especially in the education space, which is where I live, we're giving stuff away free all the time. Like I'm literally giving you away information to you every week on this podcast of how you can be a better creator. And it's a little hard sometimes because what Michael had really come to the struggle is like a brand wanted him to create content using it. So like, let's say you have like this cup here. They wanted him to create content about it and not pay for it because they just want to get their name out there. And they know he had the audience that they wanted for it. And a lot of times it's so easy for us as creators to get distracted by free things. Like, oh my gosh, I get to work this brand. Like that's going to be so credit building. I'm going to be able to charge all these other people all this money and blah, 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 blah. This goes back to my foundational things about like business where it's like, I can't pay my bills in trade because in the service business space, people always want to trade like, oh, come do this photography session at my wedding. Like I can't pay you, but you get really great experience, a nice portfolio piece or things like that. I've heard these things throughout my whole career. You can't pay your bills making free content for brands. So unless there's some way for you to attach an income stream to it, you shouldn't even be touching it. And just because they say they don't have budget doesn't mean it's actually true. It just means that they don't want to pay you because they think that they can. So don't ever settle for that and don't give away your content for free. Next, we have failing to pitch brands and also not charging them enough. So when we talked with Jen Jackson, actually on the last episode that we did in this podcast, she had talked about how she was really struggling to approach sponsors and finding people that are willing to pay her what she's worth and willing to work with her. And it really can be frustrating because you feel like you're missing out on potential deals. By proactively reaching out to brands with tailored pitches showcasing your unique value, you can really lead to much better collaborations. When Jen did this, she had talked about the importance of pitching brands rather than waiting them passively. A lot of people just expect that once you're a creator, people are just going to show up in your inbox, and it doesn't really work that way. You have to really chase those brands and find the ones that make sense for you. And I also always recommend find a brand that has like a really good affiliate program that you could tap into and start creating content about them using that program so you're still getting money. money, and then use that as a case study to go to that brand and be like, hey, this is me posting about your content on my channel. Like, let's find a way to work together, and being able to really position yourself as an expert in that and showing active interest in that brand that you want to work with. So next we have not diversifying your income streams. This one is so fascinating to me. I did a talk at VidCon in June that was all about 12 ways for small creators to make money, because I am a big advocate for diversifying my income. I always say if I wanted one stream of income, I would get a job, because if I'm just going to rely on one place to get all of my money, I'm going to just set myself up for failure, which is why I think it's so weird when YouTubers are like, oh, I just have AdSense and sponsorships. I'm like, those are like the worst ones to have. While the most popular ones, they're the worst ones, because they're so flighty and inconsistent and can go away in a moment, and sponsorships can end. Like, I had a 4-year sponsorship that just ended because the company got acquired by another one. Like, you have to diversify like where your income is coming from. And as a creator, I highly encourage you to find at least 5 ways that you can make income from different places. I was on vacation. I was in England and I was speaking at TubeFest. I was emceeing that event. And I remember getting an email that I had gotten my AdSense check. And I was like, and I went onto my mastermind group that I have, and I was like, isn't it weird that we just like randomly get paid all of the time for what we do? Because it's really true. Like, because of how I diversified my income, I'm able to have like contracts from different companies, and renewals that happen, and AdSense that happens, and affiliate money that drops, or sponsorship post that gets paid through, or my Amazon money pays out. Like, there's all these different ways to make money. So I'm able to really know that I'm never just going to lose my job. And so you really need to figure out what that is for you. Another really great example is Greg Priest went through this, because he really talked about the importance of exploring multiple streams of income, especially with like relying on affiliate marketing as an option. You can do merchandise, you can do digital products, online courses, and consulting, just as some easy ways for you to get started with what you're doing. But remember, diversifying allows for you to have a cushion in case there's a financial blow of some kind. Next, we have being afraid to sell. I'm a horrible salesperson, which is so weird. Probably, like, I'm sure that even like the creators of this podcast, or the founders of the podcast we have in here with Gigastar, like, what are you talking about, Des? I'm a terrible salesperson. Like, I have such a hard time asking people for money. Like, my agency, like, I have this goal with it where I want to hire a salesperson, because I'm just not good at like asking for the bag. I'm like, I will tell you all day about how great you are, and here's what's this awesome thing is that I can do, and I can't wait to work with you, but I can't be like, and give me $5,000 a month for 6 months. Like, it's just really hard for me, even though I know I would crush anything that I do. And so when you're afraid to sell, it makes it hard for people to take you seriously, and like for you to be sustainable. Creators often hesitate to promote their products and their services because they get afraid of being salesy. And so they don't want to sell stuff. You're like, I don't want to ask my fans for money. I don't want to promote my product. Sponsored posts are going to be this like icky, gross thing, and I don't want to ask them for money. But if you're not going to promote your stuff, you're not going to be able to generate revenue. And there's an effective non-salesy way to do it. Like, you can talk about a problem that people have and how you have this solution to it, and they just happen to pay you, or maybe it's your service or it's affiliate. Like, that is totally okay. But you really have to make sure that you're creating compelling calls to action and demonstrate the value of your offerings, so that you can significantly boost those sales without alienating your audience. It's finding the happy dance. It's very hard. And I think that if you're afraid to sell, or your audience isn't receptive to it, it might just be how you're going about it wrong, and that's just not the right audience for you, because you can't do anything sustainably for free for long. So just remember that with whatever it is that you're doing. Next, we have lacking financial planning. So when we jump into business ventures or investments without a solid financial plan, it can lead to significant losses. So again, using our example with Greg Priest, he shared that he was hiring too many staff members without a clear financial strategy, and can quickly became unsustainable for him, where he lost so much money, took on so much debt, ended up having to fire everybody on his team. So you want to really make sure you have a proper budget in place, and financial planning is going to be crucial for long-term success. This is, again, where having an accountant is really important. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I really still struggle with budgeting and like having things in place. But I also know that if I don't have other things in place, like things happen, like I have a tax bill that keeps accruing interest and I get really behind on that, or I take on an expense I can't handle, like hiring somebody, because hiring somebody isn't just bringing somebody into your team because you're making enough to cover it month to month. Like you should probably have 90 days of their income minimum saved up in a savings account in case something happens, and you want to make sure you can keep paying them to weather the storm. Also, when you hire an employee, very specifically, there are extra fees that go into that. So while you might be paying an employee like $50,000 in salary, it's actually going to cost you like somewhere about $56,000 to have them, because you have to pay a lot of extra insurances and stuff through your state for workman's comp and Medicare and things like that you as a company have to pay into. So there's a lot you have to figure out when you're putting your budget together about what you can afford and how much you make. And it's going to be very telling, because that's going to dictate how much you charge people to do stuff. Next, we have neglecting our email lists. I don't care if you have 10 subscribers or 10 million subscribers, you have to have a way to talk to your audience outside the platform. I've been creeping towards 40,000 subscribers for a really long time. And it's because it's a lot of my stuff. Like I have made changes with what I'm doing with my channel, but a lot of those things change because of how I was affected by changes in YouTube based on like audience interest and like what was happening in the world and stuff like that. And so I have been working so hard and tirelessly to like really work with it. But because I have an email list of my audience that sits around 10,000 people, so it's a quarter of my audience, I'm able at any time to email them and talk to them about whatever I'm doing in my business. I can talk about things I'm selling. I can talk about videos I'm promoting. I can talk about new podcast episodes. I control talking to the people that are interested in my content. I don't have to rely on YouTube to do it. And I don't have to try on TikTok or Instagram or any of that as well. You need to control how you communicate with your audience. And the easiest way to do that is with an email list. And so if you have something too good to be free offer that you can put together, you're going to be able to incentivize your audience to do that. And if you don't know what you should do, like anyone can do this. I don't care if you're a gamer. I don't care if you're in finance. I don't care if you're taste testing Cheetos from around the world. There's a way for you to do this, and I will help you brainstorm through it. You cannot rely solely on social media platforms, and you don't own your audience, okay? And there's any change in the platform's algorithm, it can drastically affect your reach. So building an email list really just allows for you to maintain direct contact with your audience and offers more control and stability in your revenue generation efforts. And a great example, this was with Alan. Like Alan talked about how he went through this and how by building a list, he was able to sustain and like do some very vital and essential sales along the way, but he started his too late and he wished he started it sooner. So video 1, start talking about it. Get on those email lists, okay? Next is non-investing in education. This is a hard one because it's not just about education around like how to be a better creator. We all have channels that we watch for how like we can create better content on YouTube and how we can grow and hack this and do that. Like I watch all of the vidIQ videos to help me with what I'm doing. I love watching Nick Niman's content, who has been a guest on the podcast. Same with Brian G. Johnson, Alan Spicer. Like they're all YouTube guys that can teach you how to do stuff. And this podcast focuses on teaching you how to do money. We're talking about education. There's so much that you kind of have to keep up into. So you need to factor that into your day. So you can say, I have to do like latest trends and tools and strategies that are essential for what you're trying to do. Continuous learning through like courses and workshops and industry events is going to provide a lot of value to keep you ahead of your competition. I go to events all of the time and I love sitting in on sessions. I don't go to all of them because I'm often networking, but I still sitting in sessions allows for me to keep up with what's happening in my industry and let me know how things are working, how things are going on, especially industry leaders. So like when I was at VidCon, I went to a panel that was put on by Renee Ricci and Todd, who's in charge of development at YouTube. And they were talking about like, what's next? How does it work? And it gave me some really great valuable insights. But also I found out that like YouTube is making this really big investment into prioritize making YouTube more women friendly. That's a massive education piece that was really important to me because I've been advocating for that for 5 years through my Women in Video community. So it's really like learning and paying attention. Additionally, you should be doing really micro focus learning with whatever it is that you're trying to learn more about. Like I did a really great sponsorship course through Brand Wizard. And from that, not only did I get a lot of resources and things in place I needed to help me with sponsorships, I also was able to get an incredible mastermind. We still meet. We've been together for 18 months now, and we meet almost every single Monday, and we just talk about money and how we can make better content so that we can make more money. And we all have wildly different channels, so we're able to learn from each other as well. So continue to invest in education as best as you can, whether it's books, podcasts, doing cohorts or courses and trainings, and then also try to find a mastermind that you can tie into that as well. Finn McKenty talked about a lot of this as well, and Jen Jackson is actually, I know her because of the Brand Wizard as well. So like there's always ways to keep learning. So never, ever stop learning. Number 10 that we have on our list is relying solely on ad revenue. Now, this is why the Funded YouTuber podcast exists. It's like, hey, YouTube is fantastic. It is an amazing place. All the platforms, it is truly the best place to like build an audience because there's so much opportunity. You get to have a little bit more wind in your sails to share messages and talk with people. You get to just do so much here, and it's amazing. But the pay is not great, even though they have the best ad program that's available on the market right now with a 55% pay in your favor for all clickable ads that happen on your channel. When you rely, again, this goes back to what I said earlier about one income stream, like you can't do that. You cannot rely solely on ad revenue because so many creators that do develop like this dependency on these platforms, and it can be so unsustainable due to algorithm changes, demonetization, ad things changing, all the stuff going on. Videos can get flagged for violations. There's content guidelines. Like you're totally out of control of how monetization and demonetization works with your channel. So make your own products, find the affiliates. This sort of diversifying your income is going to be so wildly important. And if you want like a really great dive into this, definitely go check out Kevin Colby's episode where he really dug into that and like why it's so essential for whatever you're doing with your income. Guys, it is 10 episodes. You can find the recap of this over at thefundedYouTuber.com, where we have every episode that we have published so far, which is in 29 other episodes, including this one. And it's just each lesson is just like a deep dive masterclass into what you can be doing to be a better creator. So definitely go check this out. And until next week, remember, go get that money. Peace. The Funded YouTuber is brought to you by Gigastar, a parent company of Gigastar Market, an SEC-registered funding portal and member of FINRA. Learn more at gigastar.io. Neither Gigastar nor its affiliated companies provide legal, regulatory, financial, or tax advice. Any opinions expressed herein are those of the authors and are the informational purposes only. The information and opinions expressed herein are subject to change without notice and do not take into account the particular investments, objectives, financial situation, or needs of any specific investors.